Charlie. And we're down to the last clap. We always wait for the last clap. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans and countrymen, lend me both of your ears this Friday night because, oh, you're in for a treat. This is a double decker or a double hitter, double decker. Anyhow, this is a two-parter. I'll get it down on the bottom shelf where I can understand it. Number one, and I'll mention this several times during the show tonight. Number one, we're doing a live stream with Cass Clayton. You are going to love it. And then, not long after we get off of here from our live stream show, we're going to the Funny Farm Radio studio and we are going to hit it on there. And we are going to have Cass with us again. And we're going to be featuring Cass Clayton Band. How about that? And you can come in, kick your shoes off, let your hair down, tap your feet, snap your fingers, bob your head, and shake your booty, because that's what it's all about, folks. Trust me. Okay. Anyhow, so we are so thankful that you decided to join us tonight. We're going to have us a good time. As soon as I get that frog out of my throat, he always appears here and there, but we'll go with it anyhow. There was something that I wanted to say, but my one-half brain cell just dimmed out, so it might come back after a while. It might not, but regardless, we'll just continue.
We'll still have fun.
That's right. We'll still have fun. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest for tonight, Cass Clayton, who is the leader of the Cass Clayton Band out of Denver, Ohio. Denver, Colorado. See what I mean? My brain cell is flickering. It's trying to fire up, but it's coming. Okay. Cass, it's good to have you.
It's so good to be here, George. I had so much fun talking with you last year after the album release, and
it was a year.
Good to be back.
Yeah, it was a year to the month. Can you believe that?
Was it really?
Yes.
Wow. That went fast.
Yes, it did. It went fast, but yet it seems like it was 20 years ago.
Funny how time is like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been a year this month since you were on the radio.
Yeah.
And
wow.
We all put our heads together, which doesn't amount to a whole lot around here. we all put our heads together and we thought, when we started this live streaming thing in October, we thought, let's bring some of the folks like the musicians, the singers, the songwriters, the bands, let's bring them and put them on camera so people can see them, not only hear them, but see them. And then we'll take them onto the radio and we'll let them listen to the music and hear the stories behind the songs and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to do tonight, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as we get off of here, we're heading for the radio studio and we're going to have Cass with us and we're going to feature the Cass Clayton Band, and you're going to love their music. Cass, before we go any further, how about telling us a little bit about your past life, your early,
you feel like that.
where you grew up and all those good things.
Yes. So thank you for having me. Well, I grew up in Western Nebraska originally, in a rural area of Western Nebraska. I lived in a town called Shadron, which was a little college town. And then my grandparents were really close by in Baird, Nebraska, and they had a farm. So grew up kind of back and forth, being a kid from the town who spent a lot of time on the farm, and kind of a simple childhood, really simple life early on. And then at 10 years old, we left Nebraska and started moving all over the place. And then I moved almost every year until I graduated. From the time I was 10 years old until I graduated, there were 3 years that I stayed in one place, but everything else was moving around. And I ended up back in Omaha, Nebraska, and Winter Park and Wyoming. And I graduated. I went back to Omaha and graduated from high school there. And then I had a little bit of that travel bug and kept doing that for a while. But now, I mean, I when I finally came back to Colorado, I really felt like this was home, and I stayed here. So if the band's not moving around or something, which nobody's moving around right now, then I'm here in Colorado, and I love it. I love it here. I love the people, and Colorado's a melting pot because everybody's from somewhere else pretty much. And unlike when I go back to Nebraska, people tend to stay there. It's multi-generational, and the same people. I could go back to Omaha right now and look up high school friends, and I'd be able to find the same people. But it's not like that here as much. It's more transient.
What did you do? And I'm leading up to a fascinating point for me. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm leading up to that. What did you do before you started writing music and singing and playing an instrument? What did you do before that?
Well, right before I was a stay-at-home mom, but my career was doing nonprofit fundraising. So I had worked for Colorado Ballet as the vice president of Colorado Ballet for a number of years, doing fundraising and marketing, lots of grant writing. I'd worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters. And after many, many years of grant writing, I kind of got burnt out because it's a really, really intense kind of job. Working for nonprofits, they have small budgets. And so you just work. So a lot of people get burnt out, and I eventually did. And then I ended up working at a luxury residence club in Boulder, Colorado. That was a new club, and it was still sales oriented because fundraising there's a lot of sales in that. You're really selling the concept of helping. You're selling people on why they should be philanthropic in their community. But I eventually went to a for-profit company for a few years called Quintess. And then I had my daughter, and when she turned about 2, I decided, okay, I need to take some time off. She just needed me there, and I knew it. And so I left. So I was a stay-at-home mom before I started this. I had no music background, none. I liked music just like everybody else, but I'd never written a song. 6 years ago, I had never done anything musical.
This is the fascinating part. And I've always remembered this.
I can't believe you remember that. That's amazing.
Yes. It's so fascinating. Up until that point, You never had no musical training, no musical this, no musical that, other than you like
Mm.
music like the rest of us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's
you never sang.
no. Mm-mm. I mean, I sang. Well, to clarify that, I sang every day of my life. Like I was a committed shower singer, like really serious about my skills.
I do
I
that.
love to sing. I felt like singing was very much something just everybody does, but I didn't know I sang. I mean, I knew I had an okay voice, but I didn't think I could sing like in public. And I didn't want to sing in public. I didn't want to be in front of people initially, and it just happened.
I'm a shower singer too, but every time I start singing, the water stops. So I figure,
That's awesome.
I figure that's not going to work.
I
But
bet you have a lovely voice.
oh yeah, uh, someday I'll tell you the story about a little dog we used to have that was blind and deaf. Uh, in fact,
Really?
yeah, I'll tell it now. I told it before.
Yeah.
We had a little wiener dog named Chloe,
Uh-huh.
and she was blind and she was deaf.
Wow.
But when I would sing, she would howl. Now that's how bad it is. So when a little deaf wiener dog howls when you sing, that's saying something.
That's awesome.
What it's saying is you better be quiet.
Some vibration in the ground. The
That must,
dog was like,
yeah.
whoa.
But anyhow, you've been singing now for how long? 6 years?
6 years now. Yeah. It feels like forever because as soon as I auditioned it was really just a friend saying, hey, we're missing a singer. Can you sing? And I said, I don't know what made me say yes. I said, I can sing, but I don't want to sing in front of people. So he kind of talked me into auditioning, and I got to the audition, and then the leader of the band, Dan, who's a really, really good friend and really taught me all of the things that I needed to know early on to be able to sing in front of people. He's a great musician and a very sensitive person, very sensitive musically. And when I walked in the room and he knew I hadn't sung before, he was just like eye roll. He did not want to deal with that because that never goes well, right? Like it just doesn't go well. And he said, okay, well, we're just going to have you do 3 songs and then we've got to practice some music because we've got an upcoming show. So I was like, good, I'll sing these songs and get out of here and I'll never have to do this again. And so I did. And it was kind of an interesting, I will never forget that experience because when I started singing with the band in this circle, we're, singing with a band to audition. I'd never done that before, obviously, and something gelled in my soul. It was like, oh, this is good. This feels good. And everybody in the room, we all gelled at the same time. It was just like, we all knew right away that we needed to do this. And so they kept me there for the whole practice. And there was a long learning curve of terror for me. The biggest hurdle for me was just the terror of being in front of people. And as soon as I worked through that, which took, I mean, in a way it happened after the first gig, it tore the Band-Aid off, but it took about 2 years for me to really trust how kind people are. And, I love them. I want them to have a good time. People generally aren't coming out to judge somebody. They're just there to have a good time. They're not tuned in critically on the level that I'm tuned into myself critically. So it went just fine. And then I just kept getting more and more interested in going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I knew really early on, like within a year and a half, 2 years, that I had to write my own music if I wanted to say something that I had to say.
So when you were this audition,
Mm-hmm.
when you got in the circle with the band and the music started, something lit up inside of you that was there all the time. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And that particular time in that place, it sparked that flame, and off you go.
That was it. It was a spiritual experience. It was like something was asleep and it awakened. And then, once something's awake, you can't put it to bed again.
Have you often wondered, or at least once, what your life would be like today if you would have said no to that audition?
Yes. Oh, what a great question. I've thought about that because my nature is to say no first to things that are risky. I am risk averse. But I also have a tendency there's another side of everybody I always have a tendency to feel a yes differently. Like then there's a scary no where you're not supposed to do it because your entire being is saying this is dangerous, that kind of no. And then there's a no where there's excitement underneath and you're afraid, but it's a good feeling. And I felt that feeling. And so while I've been busy saying no my entire life, I've also begun at that time, one of my closest friends on the block had died. And he was really, really young. He had a heart attack. It was a massive heart attack. He was a dear friend's husband. And that moment coincided with this very soon to follow opportunity. And for the first time, I think it really clicked to me that our lives are really short.
Mm-hmm.
And so we may as well. We should do what our soul calls us to. So if you get a no because you're afraid, you should do it. But if you get a no that's an intuitive, like, don't do that, then we all know the difference, right? Like it's a distinct thing when your soul is like all lit up and your cells are all sparkling and saying, yes, yes, yes. And then your brain is like, but no, I'm scared. That's the one that I followed because it felt right.
I wonder, and I say this often, I wonder how many people have missed so many good things because of that fear, afraid to come out of their comfort zones.
I just want everybody to find the things that light them up now that, I agree, George. And I missed many, many things before that, saying no to things that I was afraid of. And it is human nature. We have this reptilian brain. That's the old brain, and it keeps us alive. It keeps us from darting out in front of a bus.
Mm-hmm.
So we have constant fear that is built in to preserve our life. And it's supposed to be there, but it's not supposed to be used to keep us from following our joy. So it's the taming of that old brain. I think all of us have missed so many opportunities. But man, once I started following that, I just kept saying yes to the things that felt right next. When Taylor Scott, who produced our last two albums and is a co-writer on both albums, he initially was the one who said, hey, do you want to write a song? And immediately my entire fear thing came up and I was like, no. And I was like, yes, I do. Yes. So that's how it starts. It always starts with a no for me. Like I'm a chicken, but
it's amazing because I believe that God put in each and every one of us something that we are going to be good at if we just take that first step out there. And
I believe that.
Forget about the naysayers. You always have them people around.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often said, if you think about something too long, you're going to think yourself right out of it. So
absolutely
look at it, analyze it, not too long, and then just go do it. Just go do it.
It's true, George. It's like, I agree. Like you're obviously doing that thing. You're doing the thing that lights you up and it's your gift. And you give this gift to the world and it frees other people when you do that. making decisions from up here usually doesn't work. I mean, this is where you analyze, but the decision has to be from the heart.
Yeah.
And then your brain can work through the details, process the fear, whatever you need. But everybody's got so much, so many gifts, so many things. I have a friend who, when my daughter was really little, I'm like, how do you sit on the floor and play with a 2-year-old for 7 hours? Like, how do you do that? She's like, I don't know. I just love it. I just could sit on the floor all day and play with little kids. I'm like, that is such a gift. It's such a gift because any child she's around is going to get this perspective of just like joy and acknowledgement of how important their little thoughts are, even at 2 years old and 3 years old. Most adults cannot do that. And like, she had this tremendous gift. Everybody has these things. And she was just like, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, yeah, it's not nothing. It's something huge. It's a giant gift.
How long was it after this audition? did obviously you started singing with this group, right?
Right away. Yeah. I think they gave me, I had 5 weeks before our first show because I had music to learn. And the first show was thankfully a very low pressure thing. But for me, it was a knees shaking, like I was performing at, the Lincoln Center kind of thing. It was that scary to me. And then after that initial show, which is in a bar, then things got easier and easier and easier.
When was it that you started Cascating Band?
So it's been 3 years now. It's been 3 years ago, and I wasn't going to start a band. We actually created the entire album. Taylor, Scott, and I had finished the album, mastered the album, and the album was going to come out, and I didn't have a band. He's like, yeah, who's going to play this stuff? He's like, I mean, I'll help you out and, cover this and, be your lead guitar player for a little, but I've got my own band. I've got my thing going. And what are you going to do? And I realized that there would have to be a band that could play it. And so some of the members of the previous band, Dan Burke, Lauren Phillips came over, who's our bass player. But yeah, we had to form this band. And then I didn't know how to lead a band at all and didn't want to be the leader of the band because I was the person with the least experience. So I kind of gave that off to the band members. And then, now I think it's more something that is really important for me to be involved in the sharing of that leadership. But at the time I didn't have the skill set and I was so overwhelmed just with the writing and the promoting of the album. And, I was just really drinking through a fire hose every day trying to learn.
Speaking of your band members, tell us about this man. Quite interesting.
Yes. So Taylor Scott has his own band. He plays with us whenever he's in town and he can. But he's the producer of our last 2 albums. He's co-written every song with me. Taylor Scott band is, they are just phenomenal. I mean, if you haven't heard them, they should be on your show. You should definitely. He's a great guy. Also, a musical prodigy. He started doing this when I think he was 9 years old when he started playing guitar. He started touring, I think at 17 with Otis Taylor Band. And just, everything around his life was always music. So every single piece that you could ever need to know, if I ever needed to, take it up like 100 steps, I would just call him and ask him how to do it and what's next. And without him composing the music, arranging the music, and producing it, the music would totally different because I wouldn't have been able to express what I needed to express emotionally. But we always, from the first song, the amazing thing about Taylor is that because his depth of knowledge is so vast, I would just go to him and I'd start singing the song. You know, I'd have the melody and the lyrics, and he would say, you know, what about this? And usually, like, he would get the feeling of the song right away from the way I was singing it. He would ask a few questions like, is it funky or is like soulful? Like, what is this thing? And sometimes he could tell because I was like, you know, giving him like a groove to, you know, I was telling him as time went on, I got better at communicating, but he would pull the song out and then be like, this is the stuff that it's telling me. He would translate the emotion of the song into something people could feel. It was just a beautiful. It's an unbelievable gift that he has.
Did I read somewhere that you called him a genius? He's a
yes, and I
genius?
almost didn't use that word because I feel like when I say that, people are like, yeah, whatever. Everybody thinks people are geniuses, but he really is. And what I mean by that is genius is like further the art form. They take first of all, he came in that way. He had that information within him. It was like a code within him that needed to just be expressed. But the other part of it is that the reason I use the word genius is that when you take the vast amount of knowledge and listen to everything you can listen to, and then you further the art form by coming up with your band's own sound that takes that, you know, contemporary makes it contemporary. Is contemporary a word? Probably not, but now it is. And brings it into a new era and expresses things emotionally, makes people feel. It's the innovation that I think. And I would say that genius is an imbalance. He hasn't been able to live his life in 30 different directions like most of us did in high school. To be that, you have to be that. You focus all of your energy on one or two things. And it's rare that somebody can do that.
And so when we're when we are looking here, there, and everywhere, he's one of those fellows, and you come from the farm country, that is plowing the field, and he sets his eye at the end of the field on that post or that tree, and he don't move left nor right. He just continually moves ahead.
Right. And he's always learning, even though you think there's nothing somebody like that could ever learn. He's always learning, always, you know, exposing himself to new art, new works of music, and listening. This is another thing that just, it happens with time. You become a different kind of listener.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better at it, but it's a deep skill that is infinite that people can dive into. And he's deep on this ability to hear what everybody is doing in the entire band and suggest changes. It takes a lot of emotional intelligence to do that too, you know, like just getting people to do what you want them to do and making them feel good about it. And there's so many skills that by the time he was 20, he had those skills. He's 27 now. So
that is one of those God-given things.
Yes, it is.
And
it is.
I've never met the man. I want to. I'm going to.
I want you to. I think you guys would really click.
But it seems like he's the fella, and you've already said it, he knows so much, but yet he's the kind of fella that in his mind, I don't know enough.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I would say that.
Yeah, I'm not an expert enough. I
mean, it'll never be. He's playing in the infinite field. Like, I don't know where he gets his stuff from, but it's an infinite field. He's from another place. Welcome to Earth.
Yeah.
How is it dealing with the Earthlings this time around? But it's, yeah, I don't think he feels any sense of being even close to the level that I don't know, you know, what his vision is. We haven't talked about that, but just my perception from being around him is that he admires the people who inform him, and just taking it in. Just like I feel like a kid every day. I feel like a little kid doing this, just wide-eyed and like open and so excited. I see that in a ton of musicians. I just see that joy and being open and feeling like it's kind of dangerous to be an expert, right? Like you get stagnated. So nobody wants to be that.
It's the passion. You know, you're doing something that you love, and you love what you're doing.
Yes.
It's not a drudgery. It's not, oh, I gotta go do this, and I gotta do this. You know,
right.
Hey, I'm gonna go do this today. I've never done it before, but I'm gonna go do it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you have that exuberance about you, and that makes all the difference in the world. That goes to say, think how many people here in America, you know, the alarm goes off at whatever time. You know, oh, I got to go there again. You know, man, I wish I could get out of there. I hate to go over there. I hate to do this.
Yes.
Almost like caught in a mousetrap, and you can't get out. Whereas somebody that got rid of that fear factor and stepped out there, went with their heart, not with their head. They're out there, you know, like Tiny Tim said, tippy toeing through the tulips, you know, playing his little thing. And they're having a ball, not without problems, not without heartache,
not without problems. No,
not without setbacks.
Absolutely.
They're doing what they really love to do. And that makes all the difference in the world. We'd have so many more happier people if they'd just up and do it. How about this guy?
Yes. Oh, Steve Saviano. I miss him so much. Steve is, he's just such a great drummer, such a brilliant guy. And we haven't been playing out, you know, as a band very often. And because he has asthma, he just decided during this COVID thing, I'm not going to go out.
Right.
And so we respected that, of course. And there aren't a lot of gigs anyway, but when we've had a full band gig, it hasn't been Steve lately. And he's one of those people who he's just really quiet, introverted, but he's listening to everything deeply. And he's, you know, eyeballs deep in a lot of things that he's fascinated with. He's really into weather and goes all over the country storm chasing. And I mean, he can predict storms. He's like this close to a meteorology degree. So I love driving to gigs with him because I'm like, so are we going to get rained on tonight? And he's a fascinating character, incredibly smart. Incredibly smart.
Then there's this man.
Yay, Lauren Phillips. Oh God, he's so good. He's such a great bass player. Great fun. He is the comedian of the group. He's super sarcastic, and he'll lean over to me at a gig and he'll say something, and I'll try not to like burst out laughing in the middle of a song, but he's like stand-up comedian funny and just holds down the groove. Great voice, great background vocals. And during all this, it's been crazy. I've only gotten to see the guys a few times. We have another online show at the end of September that's coming up, but we really haven't been seeing each other. Sad, but I love those guys. I love all of them so much. He's amazing.
How about this man?
Dan Burke. Oh, where do I even start? So Dan was the person who auditioned me. Rich Liner was a friend who brought me in. I was actually on a board of directors for an organization called Kids Tech that was providing free computer education for kids who weren't likely to go to college necessarily, but could get a computer degree. And he's like, hey, you know, you should. So he's the one who got me into this band because he was in the band as well. But Dan was the one who was like, mm-mm. And then once we started playing together, we spent so many hours talking on the phone and meeting, and he would teach me after every gig. I would call him and say, okay, what went well? What do I need to learn? What didn't go well? And, you do not have to sugarcoat it. You just give it to me straight and I will do my best to learn that next thing. And he delivered some hard messages. One of the early ones, like in the first year, maybe year and a half, he took me aside and he said, listen, you're singing great, everything's going great. But here's where I see this thing that it's the next thing that you need to get to. And it's vulnerability, like really letting go and becoming the song. Like let go. If a song makes you want to cry, the audience needs to feel that. And that was so hard because we spend our whole lives learning to show what we want to show people, to make ourselves feel safe. And we've all been burned. We've all had people, criticize us or not like us. I moved a lot of schools. So I was never the girl who was popular. I was never the confident girl. I was always insecure. So that was the final frontier. And it was really a self-exploration. It was like, I needed help. Like I pulled in the forces of love and asked, how do I do this? I don't know how to be vulnerable on that level, like in front of a crowd. And I started doing it and just admitting that to myself that I didn't feel safe. And I mean, I cried over it a number of times. It was hard. And then it also allowed better lyrics to come out. He really helped me a lot.
I think that that vulnerability comes from that fear factor.
Yes.
I don't want to
Yes.
lay myself bare because what are people going to think? What are people going to say? What are people going to do? Blah, 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 blah. But
That's right.
I had someone on the show here the other night and we was talking. I call them plastic people.
Yeah.
So many people out there have this face that's not really their face.
Right.
It's the face they want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told people, don't get too close to the heat because your face is going to melt off, and then the real ugly you is going to stick out.
Yeah,
and
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean it's plain, it's pretty plain, but nonetheless, that's the way it is. But I always said this: if I can hear somebody's heartbeat, the heart, not what's coming out of their head, but if I can hear their heartbeat, I know they're genuine.
Yes.
And when you can hear somebody's heartbeat, that means you might see a tear every now and then,
Mm-hmm.
or you
That's
might
right.
see a weak spot every now and then, but you
Mm-hmm.
see the real person that's there, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what it's all about. And I think, especially in this day and age, we need real. We
Oh,
need real.
more than ever.
On this show, we have cried. On our
Yes.
radio show, we have cried. You guys made me cry last year on the radio when y'all did my birthday. Thing.
Oh my gosh. I'm
That's
so
a
glad
cry.
we made
I
your
mean,
birthday special.
I was choked up, teared up,
Yeah.
discombobulated, and I told people that, and I don't care because it had an effect on me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid to show that emotion. I wasn't afraid to be vulnerable. Say what you want to say. You're goofy or whatever. I don't care. But yeah, to become vulnerable, I believe if you're going to become vulnerable, you're going to become successful somewhere down the road. If you lay yourself out there,
That's a really good point because the trust in humanity is also a trust in something higher that exists within everyone.
yeah,
Everybody. Thank you for these people who are commenting, Hank and Steve, and thank you. There is so much kindness, for every time we get burnt, there are thousands of times that people are kind.
Yeah.
And the plastic thing is, you're right, it's just fear. And I always feel a little bit sad when I saw it actually last night. Taylor and I were at a show that we did that was just the two of us, a duo thing, and everybody was so nice to us. I mean, it was wonderful. But there was a person there and who had like this kind of plastic thing, and you know, we notice that when it happens, we're sensitive to that, right? And I had this like pang of, oh, because it was a woman, and I know that pressure. And, you know, she's probably about my age. So, you know, as we get older, the pressure to not get older is there, right? But I've really tried to honestly deal with that, like, do I want to look like I'm 20? Or do I want to just own who I am as a person? Like, do people really want to be around somebody who looks young forever? Or are they just looking for a real person who is having an experience and sharing? And I mean, ultimately, if it's all about love, why are we spending so much time on people's shell?
Yeah.
And I noticed, you know, just how hard she'd worked to be perfect. And I know that feeling because I've done it too. But it's not real. And it's, you know, ultimately it's a privilege to get old.
It is. It is.
It's a privilege to have the war wounds. It's a privilege to have a broken heart because it means you loved somebody.
My coffee cup says, "I'm not old. I'm chronologically gifted."
I love it.
There's not a lot of people that has had the opportunity to live 70 plus years.
That's right.
Yeah,
and be passionate.
Yeah, and still have the fire in their belly.
Yes.
You know, this gonna sit down in the rocking chair and push me into the room so I can look out the big window.
Right. No,
that's I don't think so. You know,
nope.
Maybe someday when my half brain cell just totally burns out. But as long as I got that half brain cell left and it still flickers, I don't think so. I think
I don't see that for you. You're going to go out in like you and I, hopefully we go out in a blaze of whatever.
Oh yeah. I want them to look up as I go out and see that flame, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to go out like Elijah did in that fiery chariot, you know.
Absolutely.
And just zoom off, and everybody says, "Well, there
he goes." Yeah.
But I, you know, if you can hear somebody's heartbeat and turn them inside out, without all the glitter, the glamour, the this and that, and those and these, just turn them inside out. That's where the people is. That's where the person lives, on the inside. And,
yes.
And you know, if you can tell pretty quick when you meet somebody if that person is for real or they're not for real. And it's just sad that so many people spend so much time pampering to all these external things that are not important.
I mean, a lot of the horrible things that have happened in the world are because of that.
Yeah.
Just because we externalized our values. Like, it's just really all within. Yeah. And we're just sharing that. And when I'm talking with you, like, that connection is just us reflecting to each other this truth that we are sharing. Like, you're a reflection of me and I'm a reflection of you. There is nothing out there that is going to make anybody happy. There's nothing out there. Like you can't buy a big enough house. You can't get a car. The next pair of pants is not going to change your world. It's an inside job.
Yeah. 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 And so many people are miserable with themselves because of all those things. And
Yes.
it's sad. If we would just be ourselves, you know, whether somebody's always going to dislike you for something, you might not part your hair right, or your nose might be crooked, or you can't speak English like me. But
right.
Somebody's always going to dislike you. But for everyone that dislikes you, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that says, you know what, you're for real. I like you. And that makes all the difference in the world. What about this guy?
AC. AC is short for Andres Sapo, CSAPO. AC is the newest addition to the band, just phenomenal keyboard and organ player. And he's just really genteel and funny and warm, like really warm personality. You know, the people that you can tell love people?
Mm-hmm.
He's that. Mm-hmm. He just has this acceptance. He's such part of being in a band is the music. That's obviously the reason we're there. But what I didn't know, which is kind of obvious, I don't know why I didn't know it, but you spend as much time with your band as you do with your family, sometimes more. So the way they are just as a person, just to hang out with, is so important. And sometimes somebody can be really lovely, but it's just maybe not a gel with the entire band for whatever reason. And he, first time he ever played with us, I'm like, well, that felt like we've known him forever. Okay. Want to be a part? Can we keep him on? Can we keep him? I'll walk him every day. I'll feed him twice. But it's like we knew right away we wanted him in the band, but we couldn't get him for a couple of years because he was playing in other bands. He's really a sought after musician in Colorado. And then the band he was with was kind of slowing down their schedule, so he didn't have to leave them, and he could do both projects, and we got to keep him for a while. Hopefully get to keep him when things open up and we're playing again, we get to do more, because we were just getting going with AC.
And then there's this lady. Do you know her?
No. She looks crazy. I would take that down.
She looks like she's having a ball. That's what she looks like. Now they tell me that you are one of the 3 or 4 best slide guitar players in the state of Colorado. And I mentioned this to you before, and you were very, very modest, to say the least.
Yeah, that's really
you are one of the 3 or 4 best slide guitar players in the state of Colorado. Period.
Well, I don't know. That's so subjective. I can't accept that at all because, I haven't been playing that long. I love playing, but there's just it's such an exponential learning curve. And I mean, I love playing and I play a little bit, but, and I'll continue always diving deep on that. But there are so many players who play better than I do. That is the truth. That is just, I'm not going to lie about that. Sometimes those kinds of statements come about because you're getting better, or somebody saw you really kill it on one song, and then the next gig you might not play as well. It's very everything's different every time. But I think also when people know that you love them and you love playing for them and you love being in the context of, oh, thank you, Steve. When you are out in the context of playing out at a show and you're in so much joy, and you're giving everything you can, you want everybody to feel that sense of connection and joy. I think that sometimes is really what people are voting on. When you get voted one of the top anything, I think it's the whole experience that people are voting on, not just the technical capability, which is why I say I can't accept that I'm the best slide guitar player, because there's so many phenomenal guitar players out there who are better. But I definitely put my heart and soul into it.
Your album, Play Nice, in 2019 and early 2020, it was what, number one on the.
It was shocking. We made it to number one on the US R&B charts, it's a chart called the Roots Music Report, which has basically our genre of music. So we were in the R&B category. I really honestly was shocked. It just really means the radio stations all over the country were playing us. You send it out and then you hope they play it, and not just once. And they kept spinning it, and we're still charting in Colorado and nationally on the R&B chart this year, over a year later. So that just makes me realize that we fulfilled a mission. Like we spoke from our hearts, the music. We did everything we could to make the music good in the studio. Every person that Taylor Scott brought in as a session musician were just the best people we could find, who could play on the album. So I don't know. I was pinching myself. I'm still kind of pinching myself. It just doesn't seem possible, but I'm grateful, really grateful that people are still listening to the music.
Here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. At, I guess, about 9:30, would that be good enough for you, Cass?
Sure.
9:30 my time, 7:30 your time?
Yeah, 7:30 Mountain.
We will go live on the radio, and we will have Cass with us, and she can tell us about some of these songs that she wrote and why she wrote and what they meant and all that good stuff. And we're going to play that entire album. I think there's 12 songs on there. And we're going to feature them Friday night in Denver with the Cass Clayton Band. And so there's where you can come to listen. And not only that, you can also go here, because the instant we go live on the radio, it'll pop up right here on our show page. And all you do is click on that and you'll be in. And I invite every one of you to come on in the chat room. You'll meet some nice people. Sometimes everybody comes, sometimes nobody comes. It's just one of those things. But come on in, kick your shoes off, let your hair down, dance, have a good thing with people, scoot around. I'm telling you what, you can't go to a better place on a Friday night than the Funny Farm in a place called.
That's right.
Because I'm telling you, Miss Ernestine, she takes the gang out there on the dance floor. Before the music starts, she gets them all to exercise so nobody pulls or breaks anything. We have a crowd on the outside of the radio studio, and there's monitors out there that people can listen and see. They come to the Funny Farm in all types of vehicles. Those 3-seated bicycles, rickshaws, farm trucks, anything that they can come in, they come, and they come far and wide. We have our own traffic control people that takes care of the mob that's on the outside coming through the gates and all that good stuff. But you come in, because we're going to be playing Play Nice tonight, and we'll continue to talk with Cass. Cass, I'm going to ask you this question.
Yeah.
How long was it before you started writing your first song? And I know it must have been a process until it actually it was put to music.
Oh, yes. Well, that was the big lesson, because I knew I wanted to write my own songs. So I started writing songs like about 2 years into doing this, but they were terrible. Like they were awful. And I never shared them with anybody. I was just writing lyrics, coming up with melodies. There was just this whole learning curve of writing bad songs. And I knew it right away. Like when I'd write one, I'd be like, nope, nope. But I kept all of them just so I could, like, maybe there was a line in there or something that I can use later, but they were just not right. And part of that is this, there's a skill of a craft, you know, that you learn as you go along. But part of it was not knowing how to tap into what my heart really wanted to say. I just didn't know how to get to that. Like I was up here because I wanted to write a good song, right? I had to get out of my head. And eventually, when Taylor said, do you want to write some songs or write a song? I think he said, then I started, you know, going back into some of the other things. And the first song I wrote with Dan, and we took it to Taylor, and Taylor helped us finish it. It was called When It Comes to My Heart. That song, I still love that song. We played it last night. We were so lucky out of the gate that that song worked because it gave me a little bit of juice to get the rocket up through the atmosphere. And then I wrote, Taylor and I, the first song we wrote was called Let's Not Be Friends. That song, again, we were so lucky. That song was so easy to write. Like they're never really easy. I would write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. But there were 100, maybe 150 songs that I wrote that didn't ever make it to anything, that I just threw away, just ideas or 3 verses or a chorus that never made the cut. When Taylor and I took that first song into the studio, when we took Let's Not Be Friends into the studio with one other song called Least a Brother Can Do, and both songs came out the way they did, and we knew that the songs, we were just kind of like, whoa, that went really well. And I think actually that night he called me or texted me right after we got out of the studio. He said, you know, that went really well. And I said, I thought so too. And he said, no, you don't understand. Like I've been doing this for a long time. That went really well. That felt like it was different. You and I have gone into the studio and it came out the way it should. And it wasn't like drudgery. He didn't say that, but that was basically the feeling I got from those texts. And he was saying, yeah, this doesn't always go that easily. And well, it was lucky it did, because later down the road, sometimes songs were, you know, some of those babies were born breech, you know, they didn't come out easily. So it was really lucky. And again, I really, you know, not to use the word divine intervention lightly, but I do feel that there was a higher force making that process easy early on so that I would stick through when it got harder and trust the process. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm still, you know, every time I go to the paper to write something, I feel like I'm never going to be able to write a song again. It won't be there. I just wrote my last song. What if that was it? I don't ever have anything, you know, it's a terror that I live with.
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah.
I love to write and I write. I don't write songs, but I write.
Yeah.
So there comes a point, you know, a guy told me a long time ago, and it's been an old business cliche for years. Your show is only good as the last show.
It's the same problem. Creative.
Yeah. So when you're writing, your writing is only good as the last thing that you wrote, and you get to that point where you think, man, I don't know, this was really good. I mean, you just know, you know it in your heart.
Yes.
This was really good, man. I don't know if I
can't top that.
Yeah. But have you ever? I don't know if afraid is the right term, but have you ever just all of a sudden been sitting or walking around or whatever, and this little tinge of fear hits you, like, oh my, man, all this has taken place, and you get this little tinge of fear, like it's not going to be here
tomorrow
or the next day. Does that make sense?
Oh, Absolutely. I've had that experience over and over again, many, many times. Just like, what if, what if, what if? That is, like that's what the mind does with us, right? It is just, I've dealt with that so much. Even now I'm dealing with that, actually, because we're working on our next album, kind of a single at a time, because this is not a good time to release an album. So we're working on singles and writing a song at a time. And we decided, we don't have to, every song that we write doesn't need to make it to the studio right now. We've got this freedom. We can write 20 songs and just take 10 of them to the studio later on. And in fact, we were just talking about that yesterday. But the first album did so well. The second one was, I don't think any better than the first one. I think both of those albums stand on their own as the thing that we wanted to say at that time. But the second one did better because more people knew about us. So now I have this feeling like, what if I disappoint people? What if the third thing doesn't hit people in the heart? What if I don't have the thing to say that is what people need to hear right now? And, I constantly was like, okay, that's my head. Get out of here. But, if I can drop down, I always know that no matter what story my brain is saying, the heart will always lead us to the next thing. It'll just show us. So then you do your next show, and even though you thought you couldn't top it, then inspiration comes.
There's a scripture that I'm reminded of. I call it stinking thinking. Every time I get that stinking thinking, where your mind is trying to overpower your spirit, there's a scripture that comes to my mind, and it simply says, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh."
That's beautiful.
And then it stops me dead in my tracks, and I hear this little voice saying, "Espenlaub, aren't you ever going to learn?" Do you have to?
I love that. That's a beautiful, beautiful saying.
You have to be constantly reminded, and I go, "Yep, yep."
I will remember that, because we do have to be constantly reminded, because it's the mind's job to think.
Yeah.
And it's the heart's job to make all the important decisions. And sometimes, I think in our culture, we are taught to follow the mind when the mind is really supposed to follow the heart.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time in silence, a tremendous amount of time in kind of going deeper and just being in silence. And one of the sayings that I've always liked, it's an Indian saint who said it, but I don't know who. But the quote was, "Be like a rose. In silence, it speaks the language of fragrance." And that's the way the heart is. It's silent, but it's always speaking this much, much more profound language to us. And if we feed our brain with that, then it kind of shuts the fear down. But it's our brain's job to do what it's doing, so we don't get hit by a bus or do anything stupid, I guess.
It's probably good that I only have a half brain cell left, because I had a whole bunch. I'd be in a world of strain. I know I would. I know. But
me too. It's good that I'm not. I mean, I don't think I'm so dumb that I'm going to have a Darwinian moment, but I am not. I'm no genius. But my heart is definitely open. It's cracked open. That's what leads.
Yeah. And if we just learn that, we'd be a much better people. We'd be a whole lot better off. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans and countrymen, 9:30. You join us. Go to Spreaker.com, and up there in that little search box thingy, just type in the George Espenlaub Show, or the instant we go live, just come on back to the George Espenlaub Show on Facebook. It'll pop up there. You hit it, you'll be in, and we'll be on the radio, and we're going to listen to all these good sounds. And trust me, I've listened to them, not once, but I've listened to them many, many times over this past year, and I just enjoy them each and every time. In fact, I hear different things each time, and it just sets me. It just lifts me up. It lifts my spirits up, and you're in for a real treat. So you join us at 9:30 on the radio. I always say up on the radio. I don't know why I say up. You know, but up on the radio. We'll be there. We'll be there, and we'll be looking for you to be there too. Cass, thank you so very, very much. My
Thank you.
time
Thank
went
you.
by so fast, so fast.
Yes, it did.
And
That was a time warp of joy.
we want you to come back,
I would love it.
and we want to meet Mr. Taylor.
Okay. We'll come
And
back together.
okay, all righty. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, whether you're down the street, around the corner, across America, or somewhere around this great big world, look us up on the radio. We'll see you there. Well, we won't see you there, but we'll be there. We'll be there. So you come and join us, and we'll have a good time tonight. We're keeping you busy tonight, girl.
Hey, what else am I going to do on a Friday night?
That's right. No better place to
I was
be.
just going to like eat a whole thing of ice cream. You saved me 1,000 calories.
All right. Well, I'm glad I could do something good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, come to the radio, be with us, enjoy the night, pass it on to your family, friends, and all those people out there. And we'll see you in just a little bit. Until then, I pray that God will keep you right in the center of his hand. Until then, see you later.